Welcome, Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a channel where we talk about Dungeons and Dragons. This week we're continuing on with the 9 Hells. We are jumping in with the 3rd level of Mineros. Mineros was a murky, miserable mire, plagued by perpetual rain, and illuminated by stinking clouds of yellow-green swamp gas. The fetid, blackened dirt had been melted into cesspools by the precipitation of oily sludge, occasionally accompanied by hailstones of polluted ice mixed with metals, shards, and teeth. It was said that Mineros was built upon the bodies of the dead, and indeed the blighted bog was littered with carrion and bones. Amorphous lemurs and cowardly spinnigons were abundant in the swamp due to Mammon's paranoia and short temper, forcing him to keep plentiful supplies of worthless devils nearby in case he needed to spontaneously fire someone important. Pitiful, demoted Nepruribos could also be found blindly slogging through the filth, along with lesser devils seeking to redeem themselves in Mammon's eyes. So right there, this place is a putrid swamp. This is disgusting. It's the fact that it's believed that it was built upon the bodies of the dead is really awesome of a description, because imagine these like just surfacing from time to time as like the grounds change, mudslides and things like that cause new pieces of land to be unearthed. It's just being raised up with bones and teeth and things like that. It is a devastating place to be. It is really, really cool that I happen to like gross swampy stuff. I think that's a very scary, evil place to kind of be, and the realm of Mineros really kind of reflects that really nicely. There is more to it. The civilization of Mineros was always on the edge of collapse, filled with cyclopean cities of well-carved stone and once grand fortresses, perpetually submerging further into the mud. The newer structures showcase second-rate materials and shoddy constructions techniques, and so constantly had to be repaired, redone, and entirely replaced. The capital city that Mineros was named after was also referred to as the Sinking City, due to its ever-descending nature. It would only take a few millennia for the world-sized city to fully sink into the frigid muck. Even Mammon's home, Galbach, a golden, gem-studded palace more comparable to a mausoleum than a dwelling, had been slowly sinking into the scummy soup from its haphazard position. So it's really cool to understand that this world-sized city, so it's got to be massive, is just all sinking down into the muck and into the swamp and being consumed. And I think that's very telling of what the realm is like, especially when we get into more detail about Mammon. The reason for the dismal state of Mineros was that Mammon's greed was as bottomless as the swamp. It was the Viscount who had despoiled vast regions of his own domain to build his sinking city. Anything of worth within the lair was swiftly destroyed or taken inside the treasure-crowded halls of Galbach. Yet despite his immeasurable levels of wealth, Mammon seems uninterested in the well-being of his own domain. He is unwilling to invest more than the minimal amount of wealth needed to perform maintenance, even in regards to the practical upkeep of his home, and only ever uses treasury to keep the sole market of Mineros functional. The sinking city was one of the most bustling, robust soul markets in the plains, where heinous devils and worse mortals acted as functionaries for those who would prove their worth to the Viscount Mineros. We're going to pause this video to give a big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. A big thank you to our good friends at Critical Failures for allowing us to be part of their live stream game Wednesday nights. And a big thank you to all you guys who love to like, support, and comment us. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Now let's jump right back into the video. So the realm of Mineros is being swallowed up like everything else around it, which is very telling because Mammon, who is the ruler of this level of the 9 Hells, is greed almost incarnate. He swallows everything. What he wants is the only thing that matters, and everything else can fall to the wayside, which is often proven by how he takes care of his at his lair. He put everything of worth and of value into his home, and everything else has been sinking and being swallowed up. And he is paranoid, and he is very, very exciting. One of the things to note is he's worshipped by dragons, by Dwergar, some yuan-ti, and anyone who is greedy or wants gold or wants money or power, anything like that. Those are the people who sell their souls to Mammon. Now, Mammon's original form was traditionally really infernal. He was a 12-foot tall, kind of a flabby pit fiend. So he was like a very fat pit fiend, which kind of works with, the gluttonous nature of who he is. With scaly red gold skin and wings that were lustrous as rubies. Although still able to resume his old form, Mammon's natural appearance was eventually changed into one resembling certain yuan-ti half-bloods. Albeit a 30-foot long, his lower half was that of an enormous spotted serpent with yellow-brown skin comparable to swirled vomit. While his upper half supported a muscular humanoid torso with bony spines protruding across his shoulders and along his large arms. His horns and hairless head was similar to a humanoid, but seemed oversized. Some said his eyes were yellow, slitted like a snake, while others reported that his eyes were pale and pupilless. Although his vision seemed nonetheless sharp, below his white eyes were hideous black lips, which behind laid his pointed teeth, 2 serpent fangs, and a forked tongue that gave him a hissing, whispering voice. So he does obviously resemble a snake-like deity. So there are yuan-ti that definitely worship him. And it's not so much about like the functionality of gold, because yuan-ti aren't really super currency driven. The yuan-ti are more about power and pursuing that power. That greed for power is why they would pray to Mammon, which definitely works in their favor. So seeing that he looks like that, he must have more worshippers that have scales and tails and things like that, because it would appeal to those people more so than if I was a normal person trying to worship someone, or a different entity trying to worship someone. This, having it reflect of my people, would make it easier for me to worship them. And that would be a great deception for Mammon to use in order to pull more of them in. Mammon was an utterly selfish entity that practically personified greed and his insatiable desire. He was a ruthless hunter who would unrelentingly pursue his prey, whether it be an actual quarry or future possessions, but was indifferent to his prize once it was actually obtained, and would swiftly move on to new targets. While his cupidity wasn't limited to currency, Mammon's wholly materialistic and measured worth in regards to monetary value. He made deals solely for the purpose of making profit and otherwise didn't care about the results of the exchange. Alongside being avaricious, Mammon was also megalomaniacal, lusting after power and always scheming to acquire more of it. The methods of requiring to achieve his goal were irreverent to Mammon. He would perform whatever act he believed necessary to accomplish them. Opportunistic and duplicitous, the Viscount would seduce his victims with silver-tongued promises before wantonly and gleefully watching their expressions when he betrayed them. The serpent's speech could be compared to his schemes in its convoluted nature, for it was riddled with winding messages and unclear requests, meandering even when he was supposed to be delivering orders. He was a guileful fiend who survived by learning everything he could about his enemies before using the information to subvert their expectations. Mammon was not only sinister, but shameless, a cringing wretch of an archdevil who kept his position and throne primarily by acts of flattery, connivery, and bootlicking sycophantism, and most charitably described as embarrassing. His pathetic groveling before his masters was renowned as his arrogant condescension towards his own inferiors. He was an expert at managing the many powers of hell, knowing when to fight and when to flee. Mammon's host of other flaws included his overreactive paranoia, that drove him in his craven and often foolish pursuit of loyal servants. His typical response to frustration, such as if he felt his time was wasted, was to alleviate the feeling by destroying the offender, or otherwise tormenting unrelated parties. This was combined with his petty and oversensitive demeanor and overindulgent hedonism to make a being that was practically impossible to work with. No matter how competent the tyrant, it was impossible to stay on Mammon's good side, for he had no such thing. So understand this, he is a disgusting kind of person to be. He is corporate greed. He is the problem. If the world was to be ruled by one demon, all the worst parts of the world in today's world would be Mammon incarnate. It's all about doing whatever it takes to get what he wants. And it's not what he wants that even matters, because it's indifferent to him once he has it. It's just that he needs it because he needs it. And then when he has it, it doesn't matter. It's so crucial to understand what a driving, horrific force this is, because he runs around acting like a sycophant. A sycophant is someone who like worships like a celebrity or something and does whatever that celebrity says, and just without thought or like concern of their own well-being. Whatever they say, that's it. That's what being a sycophant is. And he does this to all the other archdevils that are above him. It's to the point where it's embarrassing, and everyone knows it. But you don't want to cross him because he will make your life absolutely miserable. He has enough people vying for his favor that it will get you killed. So one of the things about Mammon that I really like is that he's full of flaws. He is lustful, he is greedy, he is gluttony, he is unrelenting in his pursuits. He just doesn't care about anything but what he wants at that time, and he uses it and demeans himself if it'll get him whatever he wants. He has no shame, yet he even managed to, for a time being, date Glacia, the daughter of Asmodeus, up until the point where Asmodeus had to personally step in and break them apart. It's really, really interesting that such an evil, looked down upon entity, even amongst its peers, could still end up almost married into the hierarchy of the Nine Hells. So that is Mammon. He is greed. He is today's biggest vice. He is the epitome of doing whatever it takes to get money and power, no matter how it looks, no matter who you have to hurt, no matter how many lies you have to tell, no matter what demeaning, psychotically embarrassing things you have to do to get it. The ends always justify the means with Mammon. He's really cool, and I do happen to like that he is very yuan-ti like. So I imagine there's a lot more yuan-ti who pray to him than any other yuan-tis realize. With that out of the way, we're going to bring this video to a close. Let me know what you thought about Mammon. I happen to like him a lot. He's definitely one of the cooler entities because he's so despised amongst all the other people, especially the hierarchy of the Nine Hells. And yet he has people literally doing anything to get on his good side. Thank you so much for watching. Definitely tell us in the comments. Definitely like, share, and subscribe. A big thank you to our Patreon supporters. We love you guys. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. A big thank you to all of you who tuned in for the first time. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much for checking us out. And a big thank you to our good friends at Critical Failures. We're part of a live stream game on Wednesday nights. And for any of you interested in World of Warcraft, we live stream our games on another channel, which is also linked in the description. Thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.